Hello, and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News Channel. Before we start, I'd like to say that if you want to join me on my live streams twice daily, check out the link in my description and in the comments. I'm streaming on my backup channel, Good Free Photos channel, and the link is in the description in the comments. Also, check out my Crypto Daily Updates channel. That is one video per day to summarize all the great crypto news per day. And that'll be in the description in the comments too. So let's actually get started on the video. How is Vechain going to get into the United States? I do think it's going to be via third parties, or like they're going to partner with like kind of hubs, like how they did with Platform X in Singapore and around Asia. Platform X has a white label version of Vechain. So the Vechain branding doesn't actually show up on Platform X, but they confirmed they're actually using Vechain toolchain, and they're actually selling that service successfully to many toy manufacturers in Asia, Singapore, Japan, and such. I think it's going to be kind of like the same idea here. I think Real Items might actually be one of the platforms. We know that they're using Vechain Tor on all the masks they're actually producing, the N95 masks, which, by the way, have actually been given approval by the FDA, as well as Real Items respirators. So they're actually using Vechain for everything, and the FDA actually has given that approval. The FDA is actually the FDA standards are actually quite high, much higher than like any Chinese agencies. Much higher than any Chinese agency's standards for food and drugs. So they've gained the FDA's approval. And they're producing respirators in Tricol in China, and then they're using Vechain to actually track the authenticity of the masks, because there have been a lot of fake masks actually shipped. Now, China's obviously not the only country that has problems with fake products. There's plenty of products on Amazon that have actually been identified as fake, so that's a potential another use. So I do actually think the way into the United States is actually via like a third party hub, maybe like Real Items, maybe through another distributor. So like Real Items is actually a US based company. They're working with Tricol in China, and they're using Vechain NFT chips to actually track everything. So I think they're going to partner with like a logistics distributor in the United States, and maybe that's what Jason Rockwood actually has in our news, because he said about Vechain US News that we had several partnerships that they just can't announce right now because that's at the partner's discretion. Vechain has kind of almost made it a point to want their partners to actually announce the news rather than themselves. So they said they have several things working in the wings, but due to the pandemic, they've actually been kind of delayed, like food gates, and they can't actually quite announce them right now. So once this thing blows over in the second half of the year, we could see significant partnerships. But they could partner with many hubs like Real Items that actually maybe track items from other companies coming in for American companies. We don't really know. I don't exactly know how that works, but it could work with a lot like Platform X in Asia, where they actually have their own specialized system that they actually sell to people. I can definitely see like a US logistics hub making a white label version of Vechain and then selling that white label version to track like objects for their own clients, because they might not have the capacity, or they don't want to spend the time to make their own tracking system on a public blockchain, and they're okay with a ready-made solution. Remember, Vechain is one of the few cryptocurrency products that actually has gained the support of the Chinese government, and they actually already have inroads with the United States, working with Blueberries in Oregon, and now Real Items with the N95 masks, which have FDA approval. And we've already seen kind of like Platform X kind of like go with this hub system in Singapore. And because of that, I do think they'll actually do something like that in the United States, because it just makes sense. I mean, companies might actually have problems maybe partnering directly with Vechain and using cryptocurrencies. But if they actually use like the toolchain system and TCC, which isn't a cryptocurrency, but really TCC just converts to VThor after you actually use it, and that actually is burned, they might not have so many problems. And a platform like Real Items or something else like Real Items could actually white label that platform and then just sell it to major distributors and clients, and that could actually be used for American clients. I know it's not quite as direct, but to get around regulations and to get companies to be more comfortable with this technology, sometimes you have to do stuff like that. Now, Ripple talks about using fintech hubs. Ripple talks about using hubs and third parties all the time. Vechain and other cryptocurrencies are probably going to do the same. And I do think like Vechain's penetration in the United States, they've already teamed up with several startup companies, at least in the California area, and they're going to expand from there. And Real Items is a pretty big boon for them. 200,000 masks being traveled by being verified by N95, and I think that's only the beginning because I think they actually are working with the FDA for more FDA approval, and they'll be actually used to track more and more items in the future. They're a startup, but they could get actually much bigger. And like I said, they've been doing this in other countries. They do this in other countries as well, especially in the Asia region with toys. There's no reason they can't actually do it with the United States. But right now, I wouldn't really expect this to actually boost up VeChain price any because VeChain actually does actually depend on international trade working well, and right now that's ground to a halt. So despite the fact that they're tracking masks, and despite the fact that they probably do have new partnerships in the United States to get into the United States and especially Europe after this is all over, the issue is like as long as international trade restrictions don't actually loosen up, they can't really like roll out because they're actually completely depending on international logistics. So based on that, I do think VeChain will actually ramp up in the second half of the year, assuming that there's not a second wave of outbreak. But as long as countries are in lockdown, as long as international trade is hobbled, I don't really see a big price increase unless there's an upbit FOMO. But if you're looking to hold on into next year or more, I do think this is a great investment. It's just a much more long-term one. Also, they are going to release more of like who's holding the authority nodes. I think we know like 8 or 9 of them, but we don't really know the rest of them. It kind of works like their authority node structure kind of like works like Libra's council, where there's like 20 companies that have heavily invested in Libra. We know like for Libra, we know like Uber. I don't know if Uber dropped out or not, but they have like 6 or 7 that have actually identified themselves, or maybe I think for Libra they have actually most of them that who have identified themselves. VeChain works in the same way with authority nodes. It's just that there's 101 of them, and instead of 20 of them. So it's one of those like semi-decentralized chains. All the transactions are viewable on the public ledger, but the decision making is actually made by the authority nodes, and vote like major changes to the blockchain have to be voted on. Authority nodes have 40%, X nodes have 40%, and economic nodes have 20%. So you can actually take part in that too with economic nodes. But anyways, I think that's how VeChain is going to get into the US. I think it's going to be mostly via third-party hubs, maybe not direct partnerships. They'll go via like Real Items or something like that. To get to other manufacturers, and maybe they'll like Real Items will even track some stuff for Amazon in the future after this N95 mask thing. Anything with Real Items has to do with VeChain. They've already announced that on their webpage and Twitter. So that's how things are working right now. So like and subscribe. That is the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, and hit that bell notifications button. Thank you, and have a nice day.